The greatest fear of the modern individual is not death, nor is it poverty, nor is it pain. The greatest fear, the one that drives almost every erratic action, every desperate text message, and every moment of anxiety, is the fear of silence. We are a species terrified of being left alone with our own thoughts, for in that silence, the facade we have built for society begins to crumble. We surround ourselves with noise, with digital validation, and with people we do not even like, simply to avoid the terrifying confrontation with the self. But the ancient masters understood a truth that we have forgotten. They knew that strength does not come from the crowd. It does not come from the approval of peers or the comfort of a group. True strength, the kind that cannot be shaken by the chaos of the world, is found only when you learn to walk the path of aloneness. Before we enter the void, take a moment to commit to this path. If you seek to master yourself and uncover the wisdom of the ancients, subscribe to this channel now. Those who scroll past may never find this quiet corner of the internet again. Join us and begin the ascent. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Connection. To understand the necessity of walking alone, we must first look at the life of Elias, a man who, like many of you, believed that his value was determined by his proximity to others. Elias was 34 years old, a mid-level executive in a high-pressure marketing firm. His life was a masterpiece of connectivity. His phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, his calendar was a mosaic of social obligations, and his mind was a constant stream of other people's opinions. He feared Friday nights with no plans. He feared the lull in conversation. He feared that if he stopped broadcasting his existence, he would cease to exist. But beneath this noise lay a fragile foundation. Elias was exhausted, not physically, but spiritually. He was bleeding energy into 1,000 different directions, seeking a return on investment that never came. One rainy Tuesday in November, the collapse happened. It was not a dramatic explosion, but a quiet implosion. His long-term relationship ended abruptly, and simultaneously, he was passed over for a promotion he had spent 2 years chasing. In the span of 24 hours, the two main pillars of his identity, his partner and his status, were removed. That night, Elias sat in his apartment, and the silence was deafening. He reached for his phone to distract himself, to find some dopamine hit to numb the pain, but he stopped. He realized that for the first time in his life, he was truly, terrifyingly alone. The panic set in. He felt small, abandoned, and weak. This is the breaking point where most men crumble, where they spiral into depression or desperate hedonism. But this is also the exact point where the way of the warrior begins. Chapter 2. The Cave of Reigandō. In the year 1643, the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, undefeated in over 60 duels, climbed Mount Iwato in Kyushu. He did not go there to train an army, nor to seek fame. He went there to die. He secluded himself in a cave known as Reigandō, or Spirit Rock Cave. Musashi had spent his life in the chaotic, violent world of feudal Japan, constantly surrounded by death and enemies. Yet, for his final act, he chose absolute solitude. It was in this cold, damp cave, isolated from all human comfort, that he wrote the Go-Rin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings, and, just weeks before his death, the Dokkodo, or the Path of Aloneness. The Dokkodo consists of 21 precepts, a final manual for the disciplined soul. It is not a guide on how to be happy, it is a guide on how to be unbreakable. Musashi understood that the warrior's greatest weakness is attachment to pleasure, to reputation, to others. He wrote, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake, and never let yourself be saddened by a separation." These are not the words of a man who hates the world, but of a man who has transcended his need for it. Musashi realized that to truly master the sword, one had to master the mind, and to master the mind, one had to detach it from the fluctuating opinions and emotions of the herd. He walked alone not because he was an outcast, but because the summit is too narrow for a crowd. Chapter 3. The Detoxification of the Soul. Let us return to Elias. The first week of his solitude was a torment. The withdrawal from validation felt like a physical illness. He paced his apartment, his mind replaying his failures, his ego screaming for distraction. But he made a choice. He decided to treat this isolation not as a punishment, but as a Misogi, a ritual purification. He adopted a system of ruthless elimination. He deleted the apps that drained his attention. He declined invitations to events that he knew were meaningless. He stopped explaining himself to people who did not matter. He began to wake up at 5 a.m., not to hustle, but to sit in the dark and confront the silence. This is the phase of the journey known in Zen as the Great Death. You must allow the old version of yourself, the version that craves attention, the version that is reactive, to die. It is painful. Elias found that without the noise of the world, he was forced to look at his own inadequacies. He realized he had no hobbies of his own, only interests he adopted to fit in. He realized his discipline was non-existent. He realized he was a mirror reflecting everyone else, rather than a light generating his own beam. He began to read the works of the ancients. He read Musashi. He read the Stoics. He started to train his body, not for aesthetics, but to feel the resistance of gravity, to feel something real. Chapter 4, Independent of the World. As the weeks turned into months, a shift occurred. The panic of loneliness began to transmute into the power of solitude. Musashi's precept, "Do not regret what you have done," became Elias's mantra. He stopped looking back at his failed relationship with longing and started looking at it with acceptance. This is the concept of Mushin, or no mind. It is a state where the mind is not fixed on anything and is open to everything. By removing the clutter of social anxiety, Elias found he could think clearly for the first time in years. At work, he stopped clamoring for credit. He did his work with a quiet, lethal precision. Because he no longer needed his boss's validation, he spoke with a new authority. He was no longer asking for permission to exist, he was simply existing. There is a profound paradox in the philosophy of walking alone. When you no longer need others, you become magnetic to them. People are drawn to those who are self-contained. In a world of needy, anxious, and loud individuals, the person who is comfortable in silence is a monolith. Elias noticed that his colleagues began to look to him for leadership during crises. When the office was in chaos, Elias was the eye of the storm. He had cultivated Fudoshin, the immovable mind. He was not swaying with the emotional winds of the group. He was rooted in his own reality, a reality built during those long, silent mornings in his apartment. He had learned that if you can endure your own company, you can endure anything. Chapter 5, the 21st Precept. Musashi's final precept in the Dokkodo is perhaps his most demanding: never stray from the way. This means that the path of aloneness is not a phase, it is a lifestyle. It does not mean you must live in a cave or never love again. It means that the core of your being must remain sovereign. You can have a family, you can have a team, you can have allies, but you must never hand over the keys to your inner peace to them. Your contentment must be a fortress with the drawbridge raised. Elias eventually re-entered the world. He started dating again, but the dynamic had changed. He was no longer looking for a better half to complete him. He was a whole integer looking for another whole integer. He was no longer terrified of the relationship ending, because he knew that if he were left alone again, he would simply return to his sanctuary of silence. He had become dangerous, not in a violent sense, but in the sense that society had no leverage over him. You cannot manipulate a man who is happy with nothing. You cannot threaten a man who is not afraid of being an outcast. Chapter 6, the Shadow of the Ronin. In feudal Japan, a samurai without a master was known as a Ronin. Historically, this was a position of disgrace, a drifter with no stipend and no status. But in the modern context, we must reclaim the spirit of the Ronin. To be a Ronin today is to be a masterless warrior. It means you are not a slave to the algorithm, you are not a slave to the news cycle, and you are not a slave to the expectations of your parents or your peers. You serve only the principles you have chosen. You walk the path of the Dokkodo. This path requires a specific type of courage. It requires the courage to be misunderstood. When you start saying no to the trivial obligations of society, people will call you cold. When you stop engaging in gossip, they will call you arrogant. When you prioritize your mission over their entertainment, they will call you selfish. Let them. The sheep always fear the wolf who walks away from the flock. They fear him because his freedom highlights their captivity. Musashi wrote, "In all things, have no preference." This means you must reach a point where praise and blame feel the same to you, they are merely sounds in the air. You keep walking. Chapter 7, Building the Fortress. How do you apply this today? You must build pockets of the cave into your daily life. You cannot move to a mountain, but you can create a mountain within your schedule. It starts with the first hour of the day. If the first thing you do when you wake up is check your phone, you have already lost. You have invited the world into your bedroom before you have even armed yourself. The first hour must be yours. Silence. Training. Reading. Planning. This is where you sharpen the blade. You must also practice the art of secrecy. The modern world encourages us to share everything. Our meals, our workouts, our thoughts. Stop. Keep your goals hidden. Keep your struggles private. There is power in mystery. When you contain your energy rather than broadcasting it, it builds pressure, and that pressure becomes the fuel for action. This is the principle of tame, maintaining a reservoir of strength that is never fully depleted. Walk through the world as if you are carrying a secret that gives you an advantage over everyone else. That secret is that you do not need them. Conclusion: the strength of one. Walking alone is not a tragedy, it is the prerequisite for greatness. Every great philosopher, every great warrior, and every great artist had to pass through the valley of solitude to find their own voice. If you feel lonely right now, if you feel isolated, do not run from it. Turn around and face it. Embrace the silence. That emptiness you feel is not a void, it is a canvas. It is the space where you will build the new version of yourself. Miyamoto Musashi died in his cave, holding his sword and his brush, satisfied with a life lived on his own terms. He did not die surrounded by weeping fans, he died in the dignified silence he had cultivated. You have the same capacity for strength. The crowd is moving in one direction, towards comfort, noise, and dependency. You must have the courage to turn and walk the other way. It will be cold, and it will be quiet, but it is the only path that leads to who you are truly meant to be. The journey of the warrior is long, and few have the discipline to see it through to the end. If you are one of the few who seeks to walk this path, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. We will continue to explore the wisdom of the ancients, providing you with the weapons you need to conquer the modern world. Walk alone, and you will never be lost.